Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of the Cori Stories audiobook podcast with a little bit of chatter mixed in. It just started raining outside, and the sun was out not too long ago, so there's some thunder and lightning in the background. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it or not, but I am still back on my porch here. This is a 4-season porch that we have. As you can see, you can look into my kitchen a little bit, but this is just what's going to work for me. I have 4 books again for you this week, and I think most of them I liked quite a bit. The first one is called I'll Give You the Sun by Jandi Nelson, 416 pages and 13 hours. So this was a little bit longer audiobook for me, but this is a story of twins, and it's told in 2 different narrative styles. So the first one is Noah, and he's telling their story at 13 years old, and they're often considered one entity, Noah and Jude. And then 3 years later, Jude is telling the story when they're 16 years old, and they've become a little bit estranged. So they're super close. They do everything together in the first half of the story. The writing in this novel would make it worth reading in book form as opposed to listening. I read so many reviews. I don't often read reviews, but I didn't know who had recommended this to me, and everyone talked about the writing in this novel. So then it brings it to the forefront when you're actually listening to it a little bit. The first one is called I'll Give You the Sun by Jandi Nelson, 416 pages and 13 hours. So this was a little bit longer audiobook for me, but this is a story of twins, and it's told in 2 different narrative styles. So the first one is Noah, and he's telling their story at 13 years old, and they're often considered one entity, Noah and Jude. And then 3 years later, Jude is telling the story when they're 16 years old, and they've become a little bit estranged. So they're super close. They do everything together in the first half of the story. The writing in this novel would make it worth reading in book form as opposed to listening. I read so many reviews. I don't often read reviews, but I didn't know who had recommended this to me, and everyone talked about the writing in this novel. So then it brings it to the forefront when you're actually listening to it a little bit. So both of the twins are artists, and they are doing all kinds of extraordinary art, and one of the twins in their youth is very, very much outshining the other, and then those things twist. This has a surprise ending, one that I don't think most readers would see coming. So yes, absolutely worth the read. Highly recommend. Main characters are young adults, so kind of falls in that young adult category of a novel. But just a really good take on, if you've ever known twins or had twins in your life in any way, gone to school with kids who were twins, that dynamic is interesting kind of to the rest of us. I'd also be interested to hear if anybody is a twin and thought, had some similar feelings about how twins interact with each other and how they can grow apart and then move. The mom in this book is crazy, and you don't like the dad for a while, but then he comes around. So yeah, all in all, great character development, a lovely book, interesting premise, lots of twists and turns. So I don't want to give too much away, but it does have to do with these twins and their art in the world. Oh, and then I read Theo of Golden, and now there's some criticism coming out about Theo of Golden being a little slow. I loved this book. I just thought it was so uplifting and heartwarming, and the main character has a good heart and soul, and that in this world that we have going on right now, I felt like it was so needed. 387 pages, 13 hours. I just could not get enough of Theo, who moves to this small town and just starts to befriend people and starts doing nice things for others. And you're not really sure of his backstory at first. He's an older gentleman looking for somewhere to live in this small town, had heard a lot about it. You come to find out his background over time and what has really happened to him in his life. So I just cannot recommend this enough. And I think everyone, if you haven't heard of it already, that would surprise me. And most of you probably have heard good things. So I don't think I have to say too much about how great this is. 5 stars for sure. Then my brother and my husband both recommended Life and Death of Giants by Ron Rindo, 330 pages, 11 hours. This was fascinating. I wasn't really sure I wanted to read it. It starts out with the birth of a young boy who is gigantic at birth and then continues to grow throughout his life. And it takes place in Wisconsin, which as a Minnesotan, so the setting is familiar to anyone in the upper Midwest, I would think. He is born to a young, unmarried Amish woman. So right away from the beginning, it's going to be an interesting life. And so he's raised by his brother on a struggling farm across the way. But Gabriel, he walks at 8 months. He communicates with animals and possesses this kind of, we hear often of people who can kind of talk to animals or who have a way with animals, but he definitely does. And he starts working with this local veterinarian as becomes a young man, and the veterinarian kind of takes him under his wing, and he starts, going out with him on some of his calls and kind of learning the ways of that particular career. Then it takes a real turn because you think, okay, we're going to go down this path of being a veterinarian, but he is seen out in a hayfield, I think, by the local football coach who recruits him to be on the team, and he finds his passion and becomes this amazing football player. This is just a story of someone who probably is definitely ridiculed by society, is held at arm's length. People don't know what to make of him, and yet he kind of struggles to overcome. And then the story goes on from there about what happens to him with this high school football career and then going on to play college football. It's just, it's a great story, super interesting premise, very well written. The audiobook was phenomenal. There are just some books that I just want to listen to all the time. And then there are other books that I understand that if I don't want to listen every minute of the day, it's just not there for me. But that doesn't mean that I don't still really enjoy the book. There are just some that you want to listen to find out what's happening. And that was true of these last 2 books, Theo of Golden and The Life and Death of Giants. So I would highly recommend this one. I'd probably give it about 4.5 stars. The last book I have to share with you is The Cover Story by Susan Rigetti. And boy, do we have another twist at the end of this book. I love those, right? Especially when you don't necessarily see them coming. That's why I don't like to always read anything about the book before I start it. Maybe just like the first one sentence of what it's about, so I know like who the main characters are or what the setting is. But other than that, I just like to be kind of in the dark. This is a book that is based on the Anna Sorokin-Delvey scam, that massive scam that happened. If you have not watched the Netflix show about that and how she scammed all these people and lived on other people for a long period of time and was being helped along by all these people and then eventually got found out. or if you watched that and you enjoyed that, which I did, I thought it was fascinating that she could kind of dupe all these people over and over and over again. Then this book is definitely for you. So our main character is Laura, and she is trying to get through college, and she gets a summer internship, and she wants to be in the publishing field, which is, you know, if you're not going to be an actor in New York City, you probably want to be into the books, right? Like, I just feel like that's where everyone goes to do those two things. These young women and men out of college who just want to be in the hub of things. But she gets an internship at this magazine where she is basically just doing grunt work in a storage closet. And supposedly going to be writing, and starts to just do really poorly in college. And so eventually drops out, but doesn't tell her parents. And she's doing this summer internship, and she knows that in the fall, she's not going back to school because she's literally been kicked out for bad grades. And what should she be doing? And she meets Kat. And Kat is someone who she emulates, she looks up to, she seems to have it all together, who also wants to be a writer. But Laura is a much better writer. So Kat convinces her into helping her write this article. And it is very well done. And then she promises her that as a ghostwriter, she can continue to write things because she has all the connections in the industry. And Laura starts to really get taken advantage of. It's fairly fast-paced. It works really well. It's just a great summer read. I think you get a lot of that from Susan Rigetti. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was, based on this kind of true situation in a completely different realm. But yeah, I would highly recommend this one as well. I'd give it 4.5 stars. So those are your 4 audiobooks this week. It didn't thunder and lightning too much more. It seems to be letting up out there on my deck is right here. So I hope you're having a good week. May your books be good and your listening be better. How's that for a new tagline? I've been trying to come up with a tagline.